quick minute, and as you think about it, it's so great where we are, right? It's so great, the energy here. And as I think about why we're here and how we got here, it's on the shoulders of Mr. Coach. And so there's been some references to Coach Glenn Nelson. I know a bunch of our guys got a chance to meet him. I think Mike Bagnell was coached by him briefly in that one tournament. But it is Glenn Nelson and Serena for a good decade who built the program on which we stand. And so there's a tremendous gratitude to Glenn and things like the name game. And there's this fierce loyalty that Marin's going to talk about that was built in those programs of 30 years where he coached both the men and the women. We complain about the two of us dealing with this. It was him for a long time by himself, and it's pretty outstanding. So he comes around, Sabrina and him are very close, and if you get a chance to shake his hand and say thank you, he may not say it, but he'll appreciate it, and he's a big part of what we're doing. So our next speaker, Marin Gjaja, actually is actually coming back. He was our first keynote speaker and our first banquet ever, and he's back again since those guys are all graduated. And Marin's a pretty impressive guy. If you haven't had a chance to meet him yet, I encourage you to shake his hand later. He was a civil engineering and operations research major here, magna cum laude. Grew up in Nisicayana, New York. Parents were from the former Yugoslavia. Lettered in volleyball and football, earning all EIVA and All-American honors his sophomore through senior year. And more importantly, he met his wife, Kate, class of '92. 1992 U.S. Olympic volleyball team. So Marin was invited to be a part of this team, and he trained with them, and he was one of the last guys cut. And for some of our people that follow that stuff closely, we're talking about Steve Timmons, and we're talking about Doug Partee and these kind of guys that were on the team that Marin didn't make, one of the last guys. They won the bronze medal. And as I remember the story being told, they get back from the Olympics, and Doug Beal, CEO of USA Volleyball, calls Gjaja and says, hey, he was 22, just out of college, and he says, we want to base the next national team around you. You're young, you're fit, you want to swing hitter, you're the guy. And he goes, well, I appreciate that, but I just got accepted for a PhD in computational neuroscience. I'm going to move on and do that at the next phase of my life. And so the USA Volleyball guy's like, oh, well, that sounds great, okay, best of luck. And so that's pretty amazing. And when we recruit, we talk about how you can come to Princeton, you can achieve the highest level of volleyball, you can be on the national team, and you also have a Princeton diploma. And so when volleyball is finished for you, whether that's a year after college, or for guys like Cody, 50 years after college, you can go on and you can have a job pretty meaningful with your education. Marin lives in Chicago, works for the Boston Consulting Group. He's a senior partner overseeing Chicago as well as BCG's entire business in the Midwest. He's one of 3 NCAA All-Americans, and actually Derek Devins was going to be here tonight. He's got a young child and couldn't make it, but we were going to have all 3 in the room tonight, Gjaja, Devins, and Kessel. He's one of 2 U.S. national team players. Kessel spent some time on the national team this summer. He's the only player to bounce a ball on Dylan Jim's ceiling. I don't know that we've had that yet, but Sabrina and I were just talking today about maybe doing a men's bounce contest as an intermission for a women's game. So on a women's net, maybe a guy can get there and bounce it. I don't know, we'll see. He holds the crown, and this is according to Mr. Coach and according to a lot of the male alums. It's up to you guys to prove that wrong. But according to most credible sources, he's the best male volleyball player to ever play for Princeton. Please welcome Marin Gjaja.
Thanks, Sam. It's quite an introduction to live up to, and Kelly, great speech. Really appreciate it. I'll just point out that alums do show up and they wear goofy outfits, as you can see in the picture, but with President Eisenberger here, I'll make a point. Nico is class of 21, Alex class of 23, and Stefan class of 26. I mean, double alums. You gotta love it. So, anyway, little plug. First, apologies to the current students. When I was in school here, it was a fate worse than death to be trapped in a room with an alum with a mic, giving you the teary and beery reminiscences of their days at Princeton, and you'd be regaled, and all you want to do is be like, just hurry up, I'm hungry, I want to go to the eating clubs. So I'll do my best not to fall into that trap. Sam's been carefully monitoring my beer intake so I don't actually subject you to that. I won't sing Old Nassau. I won't tell you stories about how I used to walk to Dylan Gym through neck-deep snow, uphill, both ways. None of that. No, instead, I just want to talk a little bit about Princeton. I want to talk about Princeton and the Princeton volleyball experience, what it means to me, what it, I think could mean to you. And I just start off by saying I owe Princeton a lot. In fact, you might argue I owe Princeton everything. certainly went here as an undergraduate, had the privilege of playing both football and volleyball for 4 years and made an enormous number of friends who are still friends today. But I also met my wife. It was one of those freshman, sophomore romances, that a screw your roommate dance that just never went south. We stayed together all through Princeton and have been together ever since. So I owe my wife and family to Princeton. After I worked on my senior thesis on neural networks, I spent a year with the national team and then chose, as Sam talked about, to go to graduate school, got a degree in computational neuroscience, which was based on some of the work I started doing as a senior. So I owe my education to Princeton. And I actually owe my profession to Princeton. I was a last year graduate student trying to figure out what I was going to do in the world when one of my former college roommates and teammates, Renard Charity, also class of 91, called me up and said, hey, I'm working at this place called the Boston Consulting Group. I'm really enjoying it. You might like it too. Maybe you should give it a try. One thing led to another, phone call, an interview, job offer, lo and behold, suddenly I'm a consultant living in Chicago, and 18 years later I stand in front of you. So I owe Princeton a lot, and I have a lot to be grateful for, and I think many of you will find, as Kelly talked about, there are touch points in your lives that will link you back to this remarkable place. And I'd be remiss if I didn't start out just by saying to you all, you're incredibly lucky. You're all the current students, you're holding winning lottery tickets. And you may not appreciate it right now, but you really have something special. It's such an inherent part of the Princeton volleyball experience, Princeton itself. And whether it was with the help of Sam or Sabrina that you got in here, like me, you probably came from some random suburban school. Now, Sam, it's Niskayuna, actually, is how it's pronounced. That's okay. Everyone gets it wrong. It's just like my last name. You know, it's easy to tell the telemarketers when they try to pronounce it. I just hang up right away. And I believe this place is the best undergraduate institution in the world. It is incredibly competitive on every dimension you might imagine, but it is so focused on undergrads. It's focused on you. And that's what makes it so special. It's what creates the community and the bonds, and it's so tight-knit. And the volleyball team is just another version of that, and it's even tighter knit. And I came from a small high school in Niskayuna, as I said, and that, back then, I don't think it even shows up on Google Maps. It's such a small town, right? It's just non-existent. And I came here from a place that the parents used to say that was the land of high taxes. The kids who lived there called it was the land where there was nothing to do. So I came to Princeton, New Jersey, and the bright lights and cultural mecca of Princeton, New Jersey was a substantial upgrade from where I came from. And I can just tell you that you won't have this kind of environment, be surrounded by this many opportunities to make friends with incredibly talented people with a diverse set of interests, all of the things that are around you tonight, that are going to be around you later tonight, that are around you every day. It's just a unique opportunity in your lives. And I just would say, take advantage. Think about what it is that you want to do. Are you going to be like Kelly and try to experiment and look around at different things you might consider doing and learn and grow and develop into the person that you're going to be? I'm not trying to guilt trip you. I'm just trying to ask you. I'm more of a parent now than I am one of you, so I just ask you to take advantage of what you have. Now, Princeton volleyball is a part of that opportunity, and we have a tremendous tradition, a tradition of success, of character, and of characters. I'll spare you the stories of those. I'll probably date myself by referring to Dean Cain. Many of you might have known him as Superman from Lois and Clark, or the man who turned Terry Hatcher into a desperate housewife, because she was Lois Lane before that until the show crapped out. But he has his share of kryptonite. We all do, and there's some great stories that you'll hear. Some of that history I'll just share as a team, so to protect the innocent. You know, my junior year, we had 7 guys on the team. Literally 7 guys were the whole team. I think that's your coaching staff now, okay? We used to roll into other teams' gyms, and we would get out in our mismatched sweats. We didn't even have Princeton volleyball sweats, or guys would forget them, and we would show up in whatever we had. Some guys would be wearing like a ski parka. And we would turn up, and the other team would inevitably ask, where's the rest of the team? And we would say, oh, the other van's stuck in traffic. And we'd start warming up, and we'd get going, and we'd play the match, and generally we'd mop the floor with them in 3 games. And you know, we'd roll out of there happy, but a little bit more disheveled, and leave them wondering, well, God, it would have been worse if the rest of the team had shown up. So, but the point of the story is that team went 27-0 and the regular season, and went within 1 match of going to the men's Final Four. That was the best season I was a part of. And that was the spirit of the program at that time. It was a bunch of sort of guys kind of messing around, but when it came down to getting on the court, we were pretty serious and we were good. And you guys have taken that to another level, both on the men's side and on the women's side. And it's just I couldn't be prouder as an alum to watch that. We've had excellent results. We've had Ivy League championships. We've had NCAA tournament appearances. Right? We continue to grow and develop. We went to Final Four. The men's team went to the Final Four, I guess, in '98. So. And you now are part of that tradition. And I just want to echo a couple of things that were said. You're true student athletes. At the time that we are still having all that success on the court, you guys truly are student athletes, not in the sort of overused college football commentator sort of way. You guys are doing high-level athletics, playing competitively with top schools in the country in volleyball, and at the same time maintaining a challenging course load at a great university. Our program has had excellent results, and you guys